from about everywhere. We're a U.S. immigration law firm, and a lot of people from all over the world would like to come to America, which is an amazing thing, right?
Yes.
And today we have an interesting topic: 5 potential positives for immigration under President Trump. Now,
Yeah.
this is a really good topic to discuss because it focuses on the good thing, the
Yeah.
upside. Now, this title is not, hey, our coming president is going to be a net positive for immigration. We don't know. We can, you have an opinion, I have an opinion, but I think only 4 years from now, when he conclude his term, for 4 years and 3 weeks or whatever, in 1 month, whatever, whenever he gets in the office, January 20th, I guess
Yep.
is the date.
Yep. Yep.
Um, and 4 years, we will be able to determine whether President Trump has been good to immigration.
Yeah.
Today, we speculate
Yeah.
and educated speculation based on information we receive, statements he makes, history, prior experience,
Mhm.
our experience with the president in the previous
Yeah. Our
administration.
analysis of what makes him tick, I guess, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what we're going to do, and then we're going to jump into the second part very quickly and take your questions. And so start sending your questions now. The sooner you send them, the sooner we get to them, or the earlier in line. I know we get into most of our questions, but we don't get into all of them. So get them in now, and we will take care of them.
Yeah.
So, Brian, what is the first potential positive um, employment based immigration benefit we can foresee with
Within the
President
realm of
Trump?
possibility, yeah.
Yeah.
So this is one that has come straight from the metaphorical horse's mouth, right from Donald Trump, as I recall. It's basically, green cards for people who graduate from, educational institutions in the United States. I believe what was tossed around was master's degrees, right? And we seem collectively a little bit skeptical upon that, right? Whether or not a master's degree might be enough, but we've sort of our consensus was, maybe for somebody graduating, some sort of alternative path for people graduating in from PhD programs in the United States, right?
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So yes, that's something that I think they've mentioned. He has mentioned that
Hmm.
people with high level education, American graduates with PhDs and potentially master's degrees, should get green card,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So how does that dovetail with the massive backlog we have of adjustment of status? Do you think that could be connected, or is that be a layer separate?
Well,
What do
one of
we
the
know?
things that right now there's no sort of special category for those people. Obviously, those people do have paths, in existing green card categories, most likely being, EB1, B, through for professors and researchers, and maybe EB1A if you're an extra fancy person, go out on your own and do it like that. But if he's out there saying path to a green card for people who have PhDs from U.S. educational institutions, for example, that has to be some sort of new legislation, I guess, because there's no built-in path for that right now, and that's sort of it. They would have to change the law in order to affect something like that. Is maybe my point
Maybe
there.
would it be possible that they will alter the first in, first out policy on adjustment applications or visa availability and hand out based on education? But that's going to frustrate a lot of
Well,
people.
I mean, that would be a big change, and you need a way to. It still sounds like you're creating a different classification of immigrant, though. Somebody who moves to the front of the line, which seems to require legislation to create a new category, is the bottom line there. I guess if I had to try to pick again, we're trying to maybe sort of pick silver linings out of the gray cloud that can be Donald Trump on immigration. His narrative is, we don't want quote unquote bad immigrants, which, we want the good ones. We want the highly educated. We want the cream of the crop, you know? Um, and there, well, that's that, right?
I
So
don't think
I
I
think
don't. Yeah, yeah. Go ahead.
and I guess I would say all the things we're kind of really talking about today are really kind of emphasis on, well, much of them are on the sort of the cream of the crop. It's who's the top end of immigration in the United States, and what do things look like for them? At least three of the topics
Here,
I think we're going to hit today
here's
we'll talk
my
about.
first conclusion about what I just heard from you.
Yeah.
It's not going to be implemented in an easy fashion. You have to go through a complicated process. No quick way to do this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Would that be fair?
Yeah.
Um, but that's basically what he said. You're highly educated. We want to keep you here.
Yeah.
We want to find ways to keep you here. Of course, what better way to trying to find an interpretation that is consistent with existing laws to make it happen. But if you
Now,
can't, then you got to go through the hard way.
Now, I mean, again, when I start sort of picking this apart, raise your hands if you've ever met a PhD with with living an unproductive life who doesn't have a job that pays them appropriately, etc. You know,
But I don't think they are trying to do a way with the labor certification. I think there will be a significant push back from many professional organizations that you are going to just basically dump people without having a
overqualified people into the job
confirmation
market. Yeah.
of the market, because that really is one way to oversaturate certain areas
Yeah.
without proper. But
Well.
obviously, we have 500,000, 600,000 pending adjustment.
Mhm.
I'm going to say 50% conservatively are in the IT field.
Yeah.
And I don't think, but they're working here and people are losing jobs. So that supports that the labor certification process will remain in place. It's not going to be like a Schedule A, as was suggested this year by the U.S. Department of Labor
Yeah.
earlier, that they are going to do a Schedule A
For
occupation, meaning in English for everybody listening, that there will be no labor certification. That
people in IT occupations, they would get rid
Yeah,
of labor certification, so you could basically skip right to the I-140, which would be huge.
yeah.
But
So I don't know. We don't know enough about this.
yeah.
We just know that that's just something that he is going to favor highly educated masters and PhDs.
Yeah. But you mentioned something. So you brought up labor certification, Sam, and if we're going to talk this during this evening about silver linings in the Donald Trump front, one of the things I could confidently say, which those folks had no Donald Trump's administration had no interest in during the prior administration, was labor certification. You know, whereas they came hard after H-1B visas, labor certification, touch wood, was untouched. Our labor certification practice pretty much smooth as silk during the prior Donald Trump administration. Is my
But
executive
I
summary
think
there?
because I think I mean I can tell you why.
Okay.
Um, Basically, nobody understands labor certification on the political front.
Hey, I
There's
was about. We understand labor certification, but yes, 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 yes. Yeah.
No, nobody understands it on the political front. There's no people, the information technology lobby or whatever. Nobody's coming out with a statement that the labor certification process is corrupt or the labor certification process does not serve U.S. interest. Nobody talks about it. Nobody understands it. They don't even know it exists.
Yeah,
That's why.
I would agree with that complete analysis. It goes so far under the radar that basically that's kind of it.
Yeah.
You know?
All right.
Yeah.
So people with high level of education may benefit by a Trump administration
Yep.
in an immigration policy that favors the more educated and obviously the higher paid. Right? There was
Yeah.
a suggestion also. I mean, we might as well throw it in there. We might as well
Yeah, we're,
discuss
we're
that.
talking more again about, like I said earlier, cream of the crop. It's who's at the top
Higher
end,
paid, right?
most luxurious, most beautiful, best.
Do you
Yeah.
remember they wanted to change the H-1B lottery to favor higher pay?
Yep.
Higher pay receive a priority. You're organizing by the higher pay to the least pay, and then you pick the top 85,000.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's a big deal. So people with
Which, for the record, I have major concerns with, because I don't like it. I don't like the concept of attaching the inherent value of a job is how much it gets paid. if you really did it that way, you would edge so many occupations out of the H-1B visa at
Yeah,
all. You know,
yeah, yeah.
that,
All
that
right.
there is
So
that.
that's one thing that potentially positive on the employment immigration front by a Donald Trump administration
Yep.
that we may anticipate.
Yep.
Okay. What is the number two, O'Brien?
So depends. It's a totally different type of employment immigration. But number two on our list is the H2A, H2B visas, which are sort of the short-term work level visas in the United States, seasonal work in the United States. And I guess the answer is, why must there be more of those? Because the short answer is something's got to give. There's a plan on the table, one that we're thinking that he's really going to start acting on day one, to engage in mass deportation of individuals from the United States, right?
Mhm.
And the practical matter is, a lot of those individuals are, oh, they are undocumented, and they are doing jobs that the average American is unwilling to do, such as, picking crops and, cleaning, seasonal labor, that sort of thing. And there will be a massive vacuum of a hole in the U.S. economy without anybody to do that. How is that supposed to be done in the law? H2A, H2B visas, short-term working visas in the United States to address, urgent and seasonal needs. And that's something that's that. It seems now it seems like it is an inevitability. Now, part of us preparing for this presentation, I was sort of reading about, the Project 2025, which is alleged to be the Republican plan for, the Donald Trump administration. And on that list was basically um, turning down H2A and H2B visas, which your immediate response to that is, well, Brian, just because Project 2025 says it, it doesn't mean it's going to happen. And I guess I kind of have to agree with you, because again, something has to give. I don't think that anybody's going to like the world where people aren't people aren't available to do those jobs in the United States, and it's either going to raise the rates of pay for them, or you're going to have to find replacement workers, legal ones.
So what is the changes that you anticipate? I mean, we talked about them. Okay. So what are the changes that are going to be possible?
Well, I mean, on the list, this seems to be increasing the number of countries from which you can pull H2A, H2Bs from, even though it was projected for Project 2025 would turn those down, and increase. I mean, maybe flexibility as to who you can bring on those sorts of visas. Again, that's the sort of thing that will probably require rewriting the law. But one of the things that our office, frankly, does mostly high-end employment immigration, right? But occasionally somebody comes to us and wants to talk to me about H2A, H2B. And the
Well,
requirements
I
for
mean,
this program
H2A and HUB are also high end, Brian. I mean,
depend. But elaborate, please.
H2A and H2B are a lot of companies that are in the agricultural business, are in the healthcare business, that are in many important businesses.
Okay, so yeah, so
Higher have a need for the seasonal workers or agricultural
yeah.
workers. I mean, these are massive
Okay, so
companies.
H2As are just the agricultural ones, and H2Bs are a little bit more versatile. But
Yeah.
the problem that I've always heard from people is that, um, that H2B program just doesn't really kind of, H2Bs are for, seasonal or one time, cyclical or one-time surges, as I recall. And basically, those people say, I need those people on a permanent basis. I have a year-round shortage of, roofers
Well,
or
well,
that.
the roofer you
Yeah,
cannot replace for roof in the winter, Brian. It's all seasonal.
yeah.
Yes. Well, I mean, just unless
I had
you
my
have
roof replaced in like November a couple of years ago.
not in
Pretty late still.
January.
Okay.
It's clearly seasonal. That work is clearly seasonal. Landscape is clearly seasonal. Uh,
Sam, I'm resisting the urge to go into debate with you. Sam. If my house don't have a roof in January, somebody's going to put a roof on my house in January. I'm just
you're not
saying.
going to find anybody to put a roof on your house in January. Those
Okay.
guys are busy putting up Christmas trees. And Christmas and in the Christmas tree business, in the Christmas lighting business, have you the guy that put the Christmas light on my house last week had an asphalt,
Company.
and then last year it's a blacktop. It's
Yeah,
another company
yeah, yeah.
business that's completely seasonal. The last year it was a roofing company. Those guys work in the winter and they snow remove and they do other jobs. So the work is clearly seasonal. There's
Oh,
huge demand for them in a season. But be that as it may, the agricultural worker is not seasonal.
yeah.
Well, it is seasonal
It's
as well,
yeah,
but it's unlimited in the
yeah,
number.
yeah,
Whereas the H2B is restricted by 66,000. So
yeah.
one thing I can tell you that I can see a 4 or 5 fold increase of the H2B. So instead of 66,000, because that H2B can become unlimited, just like the H2A,
Yeah.
and that is a major change. Because how do you resolve the massive undocumented workers in the construction industry?
You make them document it. You know.
create Create a path for a seasonal work that's reasonable. Why are you limiting to 66,000 when there's 10 million undocumented, 50% of which are in these industries?
Yeah, I mean, here's the problem I would have. Problem I see is still those are still foreign workers. I'm quoting my straw man politician, of course. Those are still foreign workers taking jobs from Americans, depressing wages, et cetera, et cetera. Increasing but we come back around to maybe the beginning of this topic. Something's got to give. If you are if you are deporting people in mass, that you have to do something there. You
Yeah.
have the economics will require it.
Mhm.
People, the economy won't sustain it, and politics has to respond to the economy.
You have to. So I can see the H2B program being a major target to a major an overhaul,
Yeah,
because
overhaul again. Yeah, is yeah,
they have recognized that the agricultural worker need it,
yeah,
and therefore they made it unlimited.
yeah,
Unlimited.
yep,
Okay. You want to do some seasonal agricultural work in the U.S. Come on in, and then when the season is off, go back home, do work at home, whether it is in somewhere in Central America or in Eastern Europe. There's a lot of places
yeah.
where it's appropriate for you, whether you are a you're an agricultural worker, and the weather in your country is more conducive to that kind of work. Just go home and then come back next season.
Yeah.
So that is a major overhaul opportunity there.
I
What's number
just
three?
yes. I could get dragged down in this area. So some sort of reform for the EB5 program. Um,
Excellent.
so
Yeah.
big problem with the EB5 program is how long does it take to get your EB5 petition approved? Like 5 years. So
And
even yeah,
and the laws to bring these entrepreneurs here to the U.S. as this process is going through the, I don't know what speed would you want to call it at USCIS. This one is the worst.
sloth
Uh,
is the classic slow
Sloth
animal,
speed, yes,
but
yeah,
I think slugs are more imaginable with their shells
yeah,
and leaving their slime trail behind, so you can really
yeah.
quantify how slow they've
I
been.
mean, for crying out loud.
Yeah, I mean EB5. We get a lot of interest from EB5 in the office, but usually, is EB5 a good fit for me? Only if there's no better program to get you a green card faster, and oftentimes times
But that
there
can
is.
change.
Yeah, that can change
That
because
can change quickly with the Trump administration. Remember, Trump is a developer,
yep,
and um, his family are in the EB5 business. Um,
yeah. Garrett Kushner, his nephew, had been involved in EB5 programs before, right?
oh yeah, not
Yeah,
before.
yeah,
Continues.
yeah.
Uh,
So
yeah.
basically, I mean, well, this again continues the thread of high end immigration. If you only want this sort of the cream of the crop people coming to the United States, you have to quantify that some way, and the way a lot of people choose to do it is with money. If you have a lot of money, it means you are successful. Means you're not going to be a burden on the American economy, and there's a reasonable belief that you might create some jobs. Thereby, you would think that looking for ways to improve the EB-5 program to encourage more people to use it, to bring that money, bring that theoretical talent, bring that job creation to the United States, encourage it more and more. Because again, the major turnoff of the EB-5 program is how darn long it takes. Backlogs of 5 years to see an approval there. Approval there.
Do you foresee a streamlining of the EB-5 program? Um, um,
You know, well, as I view it, it has to be, if the cases are there, the cases are just moving slowly. It seems to be a problem of worker availability. And you know what Donald Trump does like pouring money into? It's immigration enforcement. And that's essentially what USCIS is. USCIS is historically, as I learned early on in this career, it's a agency funded by filing fees, but it doesn't preclude them from having, outside federal funds, tossed in there. If you give USCIS more funds to hire more people to process more cases, you can move those cases faster. And that's something, if the right wing loves to criticize the U.S. government as being inefficient, and I have no doubt that it is in many ways. I know, Sam, you worked in government for a long time, and you can probably hop on a soapbox and tell me, about the slowness of that. I guess my father worked for the federal government, and I would remember hearing stories of the dinner table as a kid as to how slow everything moved. But
but the Trump administration is 100% EB-5 friendly,
yeah,
and we can see a major. I mean, the EB-5 is for wealthy investor.
yeah,
I believe, if I remember correctly, the Trump Bay Street project, which was done in New Jersey,
mhm,
was partially funded by EB-5 money.
yeah,
And obviously, the Kushner family, his son in law, he loves EB-5 programs, and he's done multiple of these
yeah,
and continues to do that. He sees great opportunities. So we see a great uptick there, and that could be an excellent thing for a lot of the long-term EB2 and EB3 people here staying in the country for a long time, that they can jump on a positive EB5 program and get that green card and get the heck out of the backlog.
yeah. If I want to pick I'm looking for silver linings here. The most surprising thing about the EB-5 program is that the investment amount for the EB-5 program hasn't really gone up to the investment amount for EB-5 is minimally $800,000 in targeted areas and $1,050,000 in non-targeted areas. That amount of money is more. Think of just inflation and the increasing value of real estate. That is a more achievable amount than it's ever been. And if you believe in a booming economy, if you believe in inflation, as long as that number stays low, suddenly the EB-5 numbers are a lot more reachable.
Clearly, the H2B and the EB5 are prime target for reshaping, enhancement, and improvement. I agree with you.
Yeah.
And what is number five?
Well, I have, I have, I don't know if I wanted to talk about entrepreneurs in general, Sam.
Yeah, please.
Um, U.S. immigration doesn't really have a great general entrepreneurial visa, and it's sort of a if Donald Trump is into important people bringing big ideas to the United States to start businesses here, there's no visa in my mind that's sort of perfectly set up for that. To address this, there was, I guess was a Biden administration program, the entrepreneurial parole that was sort of in place, so you can get a
Uh,
parole to come to the United States as an entrepreneur. And I don't even want to, as an attorney, I don't even want to pitch that to an entrepreneur. What do you mean it's a parole? It's not immigration status. I get to come here and I have to leave. It,
Not only that,
yeah,
but the requirement for the entrepreneurial parole is ridiculous.
yeah,
The money, the funds, I mean, it is just designed for the top end, and
yeah,
those guys don't need it.
yeah. It,
Yeah.
it's just a sort of a pet peeve in mind. When we talk to people about starting businesses in the United States, their options for them are if you're from an e visa country, start up well, you can do that, but you don't really have a path to a green card. And L1s, start a new branch of your office in the United States. Beyond that, entrepreneurs aren't really that. An EB5 has its massive 5-year backlog. So beyond that, entrepreneurs aren't really super welcome in the United States. And when we talked about this earlier, one of the things we thought might be cool, which is increasing the visa country list. Donald Trump sure does love renegotiating treaties, right? Case in point, NAFTA.
One of the things that always blows me away with the IEP, the Entrepreneur Parole
Yeah,
Program, um, uh, is the receipt. One of the requirements is the receipt of $125,000 from grants, government grants.
yeah,
What about businesses that doesn't need government grants?
yeah,
I mean, how is that? It's you don't have to do that. It could be either or, alternative investments, blah blah blah. But it's
yeah,
just all the requirements are so
yeah.
complex.
I guess,
It's not doesn't lend itself to a user
it's
friendly.
it's a terrible program that is there was solely to be lip service for investors and entrepreneurs in immigration. And Sam, I was saying EB5 is the bottom of the barrel because the processing times are so darned awful. I'll put that below that, that below EB5. At least you have a path to a green card if you're filing an
and
EB5
and, and
application.
then and then you get a parole for 2.5 years, and then you get re-paroled for another 2.5 years.
Yeah.
And it's not a visa.
That's it for me. I always paroles stink. This falls in the same category of the.
Well, not if you're putting in $500,000 or $1 million of your money, and not if you are a investor. Yeah. Anyways, number 5.
Let's see here. Number 5. Gotta
Reduce
be.
employment-based backlog
Yeah.
by the natural slowing down of family immigration processing at the consulates.
Yeah.
And that's probably a big one. And that's not a positive
Yeah. This
one
falls
on
in the
the
category of
family.
double-edged sword. It's probably net negative, but potential positive for
Well,
employment immigration.
it's net zero in
Okay.
terms of
In terms,
shifting
you're right. Yeah.
of family immigration, which is people have been waiting forever, into employment immigration by forcing a slowing down in the family immigration processing at the consulate.
Yep.
Because if he approves half of what's been approved before, then the other half goes to
Rolls
the
over.
employment base. Now, we all know what happened last time. They wasted them.
Yeah.
Um, so hopefully, then on the other side, they will be prepared to process them. But that is something that is a double. It is clearly in line with his vision, which is slow down
Yeah.
what he
Well,
calls
Sam,
chain migration
you call it
and accelerate.
you
Yeah.
call it a net zero. I still have to call the concept of visas moving over, but you pointed out yourself it's actually been a net negative in the past when they slowed down during COVID. Family
I'm just
immigrate.
trying to look at it from a positive perspective.
I know we're trying to look at it from a positive perspective. It could potentially be a positive in the future because you know what? We're a bunch of immigration attorneys, and we have to look at this whole thing holistically. But our audience we know is primarily employment immigration, and we're trying to give the positive
I
spin
mean,
before we start.
obviously, inefficiencies at USCIS is horrendous,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
I mean, obviously, but but I mean that is item 5 on our list,
yeah, yeah,
which is a potential benefit to employment immigration.
yeah.
And the potential benefit is the slowing down of family immigration can lead to an increased number and a further movement of the visa bulletin.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say, Sam, let's talk a little bit on the last one. Government efficiency. If their big plan is to achieve government efficiency, easier said than done, of course. But government inefficiency is in
Yeah, I
immigration
mean,
is a across the immigration board big problem.
are you having a hard time staying positive, Brian?
I am an inherently positive person.
Well, I mean, I understand
Yeah.
if you're having a hard time because I mean everybody is concerned about a Trump administration,
Well,
and to kind of put a positive spin on a, you can fill that gap in any word you want, is can be difficult, can be challenging.
yeah.
But I think there are, I mean, in an objective analysis, there are winners and losers. And there may be more losers than winners, as you've stated, but there will be for sure winners, and that's what we're looking at. Who is going to be the winner of a change in policy? Clearly, an H-2B visa can be one of those. Clearly, the EB-5 program can be one of them. Clearly, the faster moving of the visa bulletin by slowing down family immigration potentially
Yeah.
is one of the winners there, etc.
Well,
So,
I'm gonna,
yeah.
if more efficiency, they're aiming for government efficiency. I welcome that. I don't know what that means. And it doesn't just mean just getting rid of government employees. It means finding ways to make them more efficient. If they can make USCIS more efficient, that's awesome. But one of the things we've repeatedly given Donald Trump a pat on the head for is the ability to get things done. We're talking about change and reform. If he The concept of any sort of change in U.S. immigration is exciting to me because it is a frustrating quagmire, and the exciting part of being an immigration attorney is finding all the ways laws, rules, and policies can work for your clients. And when there's new rules, new policies that you might be able to find great new immigration options through them that you just maybe they don't.
Yeah,
So,
he's not in love with a lot of things about our immigration system, but he definitely is in love with people who got money.
yeah.
His son, when Donald Trump was accused of not liking people who are black, his son said, "My father like cares only about one color. All the other colors are the same,
Yeah.
and the color that he likes is green. Money.
Yeah.
Everything else is the same. He doesn't care. You're white, you're yellow, you're black. You're doesn't matter for him. Are you green? Are you not green?"
Mhm.
So EB-5 wins. EB-5 is about money.
Yeah.
H-2B is about ability to deport, if you can, a large number of people and maintain balance in the U.S. economy, because clearly that's going to leave a gap.
Yeah.
So that makes sense to me logically, but practically, who knows? We don't know.
Yeah.
Clearly, those two are winner. The family immigration, he's not excited about. He can
Yeah.
definitely slow that one down. Clearly, the upside is going to be employment immigration, assuming all other factors are equal. There's no surprise in losing visas by USCIS. So I mean, those things for me clearly are potential uh, winners in a future Trump policy, as you and I see it.
Yes. Well, I
Yeah.
will. I will. And maybe we should move on to the back half of our presentation and answer some questions. I think your
Awesome.
summary is good. Yeah.
Yes. Let's give it a summary of what it is that we do on those questions, Brian.
Well, we take a little bit of information that somebody gives us in a question they sent maybe 20 minutes ago online, and we give them a general answer to a general question. When it comes to making important decisions on your immigration and your future in the United States, the devil is really in the details. And really, if you owe it to yourself to talk to a competent immigration attorney of your choosing to sort of really talk out the details and make good decisions. So please just keep in mind that, just because you're asking a question here does not create an attorney-client relationship, and you should really seek your own immigration counsel to figure your immigration situation out. And sound pretty good?
Sounds excellent, as a matter of fact.
There you go. And
Uh,
without further ado, we're gonna, get our brain gears rolling with some questions here.
all right, wonderful. Let's
Yes,
start with the first one, Brian, from
yes,
Simo Waldi
yes,
or
uh,
Waladi. Waladi.
yes. I will defer to your
Simo
pronunciation.
Waladi.
Yeah.
Or maybe
S-
Simon or something. But
Yeah.
hi, my priority date is March 30th, 2023. Do you think my priority date is going to be current this fiscal year in the EB3 category? Would it
Well,
be
that is
possible? Yeah, would it
May
be
30th,
possible?
2023.
Yes, at least to get EAD this fiscal year. All right. So,
Okay.
Brian, what is that visa bulletin as I saw you typing away ferociously on your
Yes, sir.
desktop?
So, the final, they're asking about at least getting an EAD. So they're talking about dates for filing, and for EB3, and I presume this is the rest of the world. The dates for filing are in March 1st, 2023. And the final action dates for EB3 are 15th of November 2022. So that's about a 5-month split between them. And I guess what I would say to this is your answers get a lot clearer very soon when they release a January visa bulletin. If those dates for filing start moving, well, January visa bulletin is it's the beginning of the second quarter of the fiscal year. Quarterly visa bulletins are more interesting because that's when they appear to release more visa numbers. And if the release of more visa numbers facilitates the movement of the dates for filing, it means that this fiscal year you could potentially file an I-45 because you're only about 3 months off from current. And it doesn't seem crazy that they could find 3 months worth of dates for filing movement during this fiscal year. Um, if the dates for filing stay where they are in January, I would say, well, don't expect movement for the rest of the fiscal year, or at least not for the next couple months. At least not until don't look again until the next quarterly visa bulletin begins. Short answer.
Excellent point.
Yeah.
Excellent point. I would add a couple more things to that.
Okay.
EB3, Brian, as you might agree with me, does not get any help from other categories.
Yep.
There's no, coming down from EB2. It's going to rely on its own. I believe 28% of the
Yeah.
140,000.
Whatever they get under the law is what they get. There's
Yeah.
no windfall in that
A little bit
category.
less than 4,000.
Yeah.
Okay, and spread out on every country with a 7% cap. If he's the rest of the world, you need to take out China, India. Is it Philippines also? Mexico backlog in the EB3?
Yeah, China, India, Mexico, Philippines have their own
dates.
Yeah.
So you take those 4 countries out, which is 7% times 4. So that's 28% of that 28%. So that's what's left.
Yeah.
So with that, so that will be 72%, about 2,800 green cards, and divide that by 4, you get 7,000 per period available that is going to be put in. And I did a quick calculation, so excuse me if I am wrong with the number, but it appears to me quickly is approximately plus or minus 7,000 green cards available every quarter that gets added to the EB3. Now the question is, how many visas are in the pipeline versus how many new visas will determine the movement. It's not complicated. It's straightforward. So as you said, in January, how much that moved is going to probably give you an idea how much is going to move in the next 2 quarters into this fiscal year.
Yeah, I guess I'd say, to answer the question, would it be possible to at least get an EAD this fiscal year? The processing times for EADs are, I'm going to maybe make my answer get a little bit technical. Filing the I-45 in this fiscal year seems, well, again, we'll know when we see the visa bulletin for January, you get a better idea. But those EAD processing times can be a little bit long, so you got to take into that lag time as well. But
yes. All right, let's take the next one, Brian.
Yeah. A frequent flyer, Hari Guru. Hi, Sam/Brian. Submitted I-45 in 10/2020. From last 6 months, wife started using I-45 EAD for her job. Does this impact her status if we submit her H4 extension along with the kids' H4 extension? Thank you. Ooh, that's a great question. And the short answer is yes. Yes, it does impact her status. So the rules of H4 status are essentially the following: that you're in H4 status as long as you're the spouse of an H1B holder who's in active status, and you're allowed to work when you have an H4 EAD in the C26 category in your hand. If you are using an EAD is not issued pursuant to your H4 status, I would very fervently argue that you have violated your H4 status. Now, that's not a problem, because as long as you have a valid pending green card application, you are allowed to stay in the United States. Now, the issue really comes up as Hari brings up, well, How does this impact when I file her H4 extension along with the kids' H4 extension? And I think it could potentially be impactful because here's the questions on the I-539 form that will come up in my mind. One, it asks you whether you filed a green card application. Yes. And it asks you whether you've been employed in the United States before. And the answer is going to be yes. And basically, if your wife doesn't have a valid H4 EAD, they're going to figure out that she is using her green card EAD because she has a pending green card and she's been working. And if they figure out that she's using her green card EAD, they should, if they're doing their job really well, they'd say, hmm, great, fantastic. We see you're working in the United States pursuant to a valid authorized USCIS EAD, no problem. But because you're using that EAD, we can't grant you an extension of H4 status. Do you think if you submit this case that says I'm requesting extension of H4, I have a filed I-45, I'm working and I don't have an H4 EAD, do you think USCIS catches that and they don't approve the H4 extension?
50-50. I
Yeah,
don't I don't I don't put a whole lot of stock in them doing that kind of a thorough job, but some of them do.
some of them might. I mean, the bottom
Yeah,
line is you can't really rely upon that H4 extension
I
anyway.
would like to challenge that question a little bit.
Okay.
Uh, I'm gonna have to guess that maybe she also have an H4 EAD.
Okay, sure.
Now, maybe she doesn't, but if she does,
That crossed my mind.
what make you believe that you're using the 485 EAD as opposed to the H4 EAD?
Yeah. Yeah, no, where it really gets sort of fuzzy is, when is one using the EAD? If you have two EADs and you hand real question, Sam, and I have to think about this for a bit. If you have two EADs, you have an I-45 EAD and you have an H4 EAD, you're maintaining your H4 status, and then, oops, you get them mixed up. You can't tell the difference. You hand in the I-45 EAD to your employer instead of the H4 EAD. Have you violated your H4 status?
I think you have opened the door. I don't know if you have, but
Yeah.
I think you've opened the door for a very dumb ruling by USCIS,
Yeah.
because I think the interpretation should be that you have not, because clearly you're authorized to work
Yeah.
in within the status. So why would you just simply because you handed the card?
Work and status are separate things.
I
You're working.
nine I
Yeah.
nine is not designed to declare what legal status you're on. I-9 is designed to confirm that the employer has followed the
Verify that you're
law by
authorized to work.
verifying your employment in the U.S.
They
But
don't
it
get to
does,
make. They don't get to call what status you're on. The employer
and
doesn't do that.
however card you've given does not declare the opportunity for you to work if you have another one that you
Yeah.
wanted to use.
Yeah.
You have five EADs and you hand one. I think you could easily be on any of the others, vis-a-vis your obligation to show to USCIS that you did not violate your status. So
Yeah.
I can make a very strong argument in favor that this person has not, if they have an H4 EAD, that they have not presented to the employer, but they have presented the
Oh yeah.
I-45 EAD.
Yeah.
But if they don't have an H4 EAD, then all your analysis stands correctly.
Yeah, I guess I mean the fundamental thing. I think the government counter argument, because you're right. I think it would be ridiculous for the government to make that sort of push if you had two EADs, use the green card one, and suddenly you're out of H4 status. I think their argument would be, well, you took advantage of the benefits of the I-45 EAD ever that's it. You took advantage of those benefits. If you didn't give in your H4 EAD because you lost it in the bottom of in your car, you dropped it in your car and just handed in an I-45 one. They'd say, well, you wouldn't have had that EAD but for the benefit of the I-45 filing, and you took advantage of it.
Again, that will make what I would call not a very productive decision by
Yeah,
USCIS.
I think. Yeah, I think
Because
they're an agency who makes a lot of unproductive
it
decisions.
turns on hyper technical interpretation
Yeah.
that is not anywhere in the world of practicality.
Yeah.
And that's when the
Hey, I
law
feel attacked now.
no, that's when the law
Just
loses
kidding.
its
Yeah.
common sense,
Yeah.
because the law is common sense. Anything legal that's not common sense, all law start with good public policy, and then
Agreed.
they
That's
create
that's
law
what they
to
teach
support
you in law
public
school. Yeah.
policy. And therefore, when you make rulings that are not consistent with a basic common sense, you have separated the common sense from the law, and that's when we come out with
Now
a
I'm going to bring
situation
up a
that's
classic
very
Brian
stupid.
phrase. It's sounds like a great appeal. I could
Yeah,
foresee USCIS making that an officer making that decision, and then having to appeal that somewhere
but
because
we've lost
yeah
Harry.
yeah
We've lost Harry.
yeah
We
yeah
have lost Harry Guru. We
yeah
need to get it back,
yeah.
because you and I can talk about this for a long time, and
We, we we
obviously,
we are deep in the reeds. We're underwater at this point.
yes,
Yeah
we're underwater. We're deep underwater. Let's
yeah
get our head at least,
yeah
our chin above water, and tell Harry,
yeah
if your wife is using the 45 EAD
yep
and she doesn't have an H4 EAD that's valid,
yep.
she's no longer on H1B,
H4 rather, right?
H4,
Yeah
and therefore the extension would be inappropriately filed, and the approval will be inappropriately granted.
yeah.
And that thing, we'll just leave it at that. Let's go to the next one.
Now, in defense of leaving it that Sam, that was the initial answer I said, and you did a
100%
you
is
did
my
a very
fault.
Brian thing and say I'm going to
100%.
make this far more complicated. Anyhow,
Yes, but it was a good
no,
discussion.
a
I
good.
think everybody fell asleep here for 5 minutes listening to us at my
No,
fault.
we really got into the reads on that one, and
Yeah.
we're usually better catching ourselves about that.
Yes.
Well, one Hari followed by another, a different Hari. In September 2024, my company extended my H-1B and approved till 2027. I traveled to India in November, returned to USA using AP, work with the same employer. Does my employer need to update any form to continue my employment? Um,
The answer
my
is no.
yeah, sure, yeah.
I agree.
Yeah, my answer is going to be a very simple one. Let your employer worry about their. I mean, this was something we were talking about earlier. I-9 is for your employer's obligation to verify that
Yeah, but you're
your work
assuming they
authorization.
know about the intricacies of the law. I think the answer is no. You can start working right away. So
Yeah,
he knows, he's feeling comfortable
sure.
that he's complying with the law, that under this very narrow case scenario, and obviously we do not know enough about the case,
Yeah,
but
it
based on
appears
what you've
so. Yeah,
told us, it
yeah,
appears that you can begin employment and you are 100% in compliance with the law.
yeah.
You return to work, he has a valid H1B, whether or not he has an EAD. Now, if he has an EAD, that's great.
Another layer of
Uh,
protection. Yeah,
Yes, but according to a very old interpretation uh, or policy statement by USCIS, you basically can continue working, or you will not be found to be in violation of your
yeah.
employment if you continue
Working for
working.
the H-1B employer,
Yeah.
leave the United States in H-1B status, return to that same H-1B employer. They're gonna. It's this harkens back to a time when EADs were slower to issue, essentially.
As we enter a new era,
Yeah.
of enforcement
hmm
that is completely different than the prior um, 4 years, I would be more comfortable if Harry has an EAD,
Sure.
and he may have an EAD. He
Hari
just
must
didn't.
have an
Yeah, he
EAD.
didn't mention it,
Yeah. If
and
he has
that's
an
check
AP,
mark.
he's got to have an
Yeah,
EAD at this point.
exactly,
Yeah. Yeah.
exactly. And if he has an EAD, the answer doesn't change. Yes, you can work.
Yeah.
And does the employer need to update something? Yeah, the employer should
No.
update their I-9 for
Yeah.
the employer to comply.
Yeah.
But that's not dependent on whether or not you're authorized to
Yeah.
work in the US.
Yeah. I mean, to sort of finish out how this works, though, Hari's here on entered as a parolee. He entered as a parolee. He's not on H1 under this scenario, as we understand it, is not on H1B status. They're honoring the H1B work authorization if he doesn't have an EAD, but he's not on H1B status. They actually get back on H1B status. They will, under present that old policy, they will take an H1B extension on behalf of Hari to put him back in H1B status. So that's to be clear. They're honoring your H1B approval for work authorization, but your status is still that of somebody who's been paroled into the United States pursuant to their pending adjustment of status. It's a fine line, and I'm not going to go any deeper on that, lest we find ourselves getting out our scuba equipment again. Um, so, Sam?
All right. So we have in Susanta,
Hmm,
I think, or
yeah.
Sumanta.
Susanda
Susanta or
Samanda.
Sumanta.
I like the
I,
it
I
rhymes a
like
little
the
bit.
rhyme of
Yeah.
that. H4I 797 approved until 4/30 2026. All right. So until 2 years into the future.
Yeah.
I did not visit outside the United States for at least 8 years. Current H4 EAD is expiring in April of 2025. Okay, so it's expiring soon. Do I need cross the border to extend H4 EAD? Also, passport expiring March of 2025. Well, you have a valid H4 for 2 years, and um, clearly you can file for your EAD extension now and not wait. I don't know why you're not filing for EAD extension. Your passport is about to expire, and you're worried about that. March 2025. So you might want. I don't think that's gonna hurt. Oh, okay. Before April, I understand. So I would definitely start by trying to renew that passport first. Um, would you file for that, Brian, now, or would you renew the passport first?
So I feel like I need to get a public service announcement out here real quick, because there's a misconception that goes around that I've heard in consultations before. It's that traveling outside the United States to extend your H4 I-94 will not extend your H4 EAD. H4 EADs are valid for the amount of time stated on their face, as long as you're in valid H4 status, and it is not extended by just by getting a new I-94. The way you extend an H4 EAD, as you are alluding to, is to submit a new H4 EAD extension filing. So there's that. What? So the problem that here's the problem. Here's what happens if, hypothetically, if Susanta files an H4 EAD extension right now. She has an I-90. She has an I-94 valid through 4/30/2026. Oh, I see it. This is fine then. She gets she has an I-94 valid through 4/30/2026. If she files an H4 EAD right now, she gets a extension of her H4 EAD through 4/30/2026. That's it. I guess there's nothing really complicated here. I don't know what traveling gets here, and again, I worry that she's concerned that somehow that traveling to get her I-94 extended allows her to extends her EAD, and it doesn't. You only extend your EAD through a new EAD filing.
So, Brian, what about the automatic extension?
So I thought this is maybe getting mixed up in here, but automatic extension of H4 EAD is available for I think the period. It might be only 180 days now, maybe back down to 180 days. I'm not sure. I have to look that up. But automatic extensions of certain EADs is available upon a timely filing before your existing EAD expires. However, H4 EADs have a nasty requirement that you have to have a valid I-94 in order to be eligible for the automatic extension,
Which she has.
which she has. Again, that's what was throwing me off. Oftentimes,
Which she
yeah,
has,
yeah,
and that's good news for her.
yeah,
And it is 180 days. But
yeah,
however, the reason I like that is because she can do that now, and then she can go and apply for a passport renewal concurrently at the same time because her passport is expiring in March of 2025 soon,
yeah.
and
Okay, yeah,
her EAD is going to be effective in April of 2026, which could result in an RFE.
yeah,
It could, it may not, it could.
yeah.
Therefore, I would file for the H4 EAD now to take advantage of the 180-day automatic extension so you can
Sure.
continue working. As a matter of fact, I'll probably delay that. I'll file the March 2025 expired passport renewal now. I'll make a copy of it first. I'll wait until a month before the expiration of the EAD, and I'll file for that because you get an automatic extension, Brian, until March 30th, 2026. Then
Yeah.
I would hope that the renewed passport will come before the
You
RFA.
miscalculated. You said until March 30th, 2020, March 30th, 2026. You get the automatic extensions only goes 180 days. You said, right?
Correct,
Yeah,
correct. But you need 100. You need to file for that passport extension. I don't know how long it takes the passport to be extended at the U.S. Consulate. I'm
yeah,
assuming a couple months
yeah,
to get that back.
yeah.
Okay,
Or
but
yeah, yeah, consulate.
you're
Yeah,
right.
yeah, yeah.
So you time the renewal close to the expiration to get the 180-day clock to take advantage of that as much as possible.
But why not file early? I mean, so what I'm seeing is
The
that,
concern I have if they get an
yeah,
RFE early and then the passport is not renewed yet.
yeah. I don't, I don't, I
She's
don't.
in good shape.
So here's what something Sam Shihab taught me early on in immigration law was that, Brian, non-immigrants at every waking second of the day are supposed to have a valid passport in the United States, right? And I'm always paranoid. And so you're entirely right. You're supposed to, your passport is what you're supposed to have. It's supposed to be always valid. But USCIS sure does rarely ask questions about expired or expiring passports in extension scenarios. But
Except that this renewal, Brian,
yeah,
begins after the passport expires. So
yeah,
that one I would worry about it a little bit. So I would start with renewing the passport now,
well, yeah,
and then I
agreed.
would file for the EAD extension. You can do it now at the same time. You can delay it a little bit to
Yeah,
take it to extend the 180 days.
yeah,
I don't want an RFP to come too quick
yeah.
when that passport is not expired. That's the only thing.
The only reason I get antsy about submitting it late is I don't want somebody's work authorization to lapse due to USCIS not acting during the
But you get 180 days.
180 days.
It's
Raise
6 months.
that's 6 months, and that is within the
That
normal processing
passport will
times
come
of
back
H4.
within 6 months. I mean,
That
I'll be shocked if the passport doesn't come back in six
and
months.
I will concede that right now USCIS processing times for H4 EADs are within 6 months, but change of administration coming will already be in effect there in March 2025. When if they fire half of USCIS, those processing times are going to go up.
Right.
Yeah,
Understand. That's
yeah,
possible.
yeah,
All right. Excellent.
yeah.
Shall we take the next one?
Well, it's more from Susanta, who probably already got more than they bargained for here. Can I apply for H4 EAD and I-797 and with H4?
Including passport expiration created any problem, I apply for passport renewal.
Yeah,
Oh, she already applied for passport renewal. So
yeah,
she's just, so that's great.
yeah,
Yes, you can go ahead and do that. That should not be a problem. But if there's an RFE, you have 180 days and you can definitely include that copy of that renewed passport at the appropriate time.
yeah,
And you get 87 days typically
yeah,
for an RFE. So
yeah,
yes, you're good there.
yeah,
But excellent,
yeah,
excellent follow up
yeah,
and very helpful explanation, Brian.
yeah, yeah.
Let's take the next one.
So from Ranyan, our AOS is pending with date current for 18 months. Wow. Is it a good idea to do a mandamus before the new administration comes in before January? So, hmm, is it a good? Is it? I'm going to maybe answer split this into two questions because we're allowed to chop these things up. Is the
Yes. So
mandamus? Go ahead.
yes,
Is the
yeah. No, no.
mandamus
Excellent way to handle it. Yes, I
is
like
the
what you're doing.
mandamus an action a good idea? And to that, I'd say it doesn't sound crazy to me. If your priority date's really been current for 18 months and they haven't acted, and you've been poking USCIS in all the right ways, being service inquiries and sending them a letter, contacting your congressperson, it doesn't sound crazy. 18 months is a long amount of time for them to not act on I-45.
I agree.
Question two is: does the change of administration impact your, I guess, essentially your odds of success on this? And can you file now and increase your chances?
Incredibly, very, very, very small advantage. Very small. Not worth considering. Uh, the reason I say small advantage, Brian,
Mhm.
is because we anticipate an increase in the mandamus filings with the Trump administration.
Sure.
It just is gonna. It's gonna happen.
If
Uh,
they slow things, if they
Fair assessment,
if they
right?
slow things down, people are going to have to sue to move them to speed them up. Sure.
Yeah, especially if you are from a certain countries or a certain background or whatever.
Yeah.
Ideological screening, all that stuff that's coming down the pipeline. Therefore, you will be competing with more applications.
Yep.
But it doesn't change how judges handle, how courts handle cases in general. Um, but it may change simply because they're backlogged and then they decide to fight all of them. So a lot of time what happens is when the court gets backlogged, then there's a more tendency to fight back because they feel that maybe they've been too lenient. Now they want to make it more costly, more difficult to file a mandamus,
Mhm.
and they will fight them to slow down the flow of filings
Sure.
coming next year. So yes, I would say slight edge if you file earlier. I agree. I don't know if Brian agrees with me, but I agree with me.
So your answer is get in front of the coming wave. Get yours in now. Yeah, I mean, I think I agree with everything you said. Attitudes might change. Slowdown is more likely to occur in the incoming administration, and get it in fast. I mean, that's the sort of thing where a mandamus action, I suspect, would clean that up pretty quickly because 18 months of the current priority date.
Well, I don't know about pretty quickly anymore. I mean, we're seeing now a little bit. They're pushing back a little bit, but mandamus is something that has been giving us results.
Yeah,
Whether
that's what.
USCIS likes it
Yeah,
or not, it is definitely, even when they fight us, they seems to that the consulate is moving forward with the application. And we had a case that the government is fighting us on the mandamus, which is silly, but at the same time, the case is moving forward with
yeah,
that consulate, which is that's the goal, right?
yeah,
So we're achieving the goal as we are fighting it, in court, which is fine with us.
yeah. Yeah. Maybe it's 7:01. We'll hit the one last question here and
Yes, let's do
call.
one more because we kind of dragged it out in a couple of
Yeah,
questions.
yeah, exactly. So, hi, Sam and Brian. Party date December 2013. I-485 filed October 2020. Long time. Medical sent August 2022. Is USCIS still sending medicals RFE if it's been more than 2 years? Similar cases getting RFE, but not me. So, on the what is the I-693 is the medical exam form? I think it is.
I
Yep,
will take your word for it.
I-693 is a medical exam form.
Hmm.
And oh, that reminds me, Sam. USCIS news update on the subject of medical exams.
Yes.
For the public service announcement, USCIS policy, and it's literally right here on the page, effective December 2nd, 2024, you are required to submit Form I-693 or a partial Form I-693. You must submit it with your I-45. Otherwise, we may reject your Form I-45. So saying new policies, if you're filing an I-45 today, you must have that medical exam.
When did they publish that?
It says effective December 2nd, 2024. And it says this website was last updated December 2nd, 2024. Now
So
here's
it's effective same day.
yes. Now
That's a
here's
that's a ridiculous notice. That's what I was worried about.
the thing, Sam. I bet if I go to the instructions for Form I-485, and this is the sort of
They
thing that
haven't changed. Yeah.
exactly 693. Applicants are generally required to complete blah 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 blah. Blah, blah, blah. If you're required to submit, blah, 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 you must submit it with
They changed it.
yeah.
They updated the instructions.
Yeah, this is up. This is the edition date 8/28/2024. This web page was last updated on 12/2, and the edition date of the form is they just launched this 8/24 edition of the I-485. I'm not sure, but it's there. It's in the form instructions now. Well, good upon USCIS for updating their form instructions for not misleading somebody. So
Yes.
there's that. But
Back to this question.
yes, the I-693 medical examination. Here's what it says. Effective April 2024, Form I-693 that was properly completed and signed by civil surgeon on or after November 1st, 2023, does not expire. Yours, Wesley, having been submitted in August 2022 and now being August 2024, surely must have it would have expired. And is USCIS still sending those medical RFEs? Yeah. And should you expect to receive one? Eventually.
So prior to 2013, let's help this gentleman out.
Okay.
I
December
don't
2013.
know. I don't know what country of birth he's from, but if the priority date is not coming soon, I will wait for the RFE. If the priority date is coming soon, but 2013 looks like he should be coming soon.
Yeah, pretty close. I mean,
Regardless, he
they're
must be
in.
from India,
Yeah.
right? So I'm kind of filling the gaps here. I'm guessing because obviously I don't think there's anybody else backlogged.
No,
Uh,
nobody backlogged that far. No.
2013. So clearly he's born in India,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Now, would you file it? Would you have him enter file the?
He's still a year off of current on final action dates there in November 2012. He's in December
Would you
2013.
preemptively file an updated medical?
Well, if so, again, sending things unsolicited to USCIS is always a risk. Sometimes they send them back. Sometimes they lose them. You're never sure it's going to get there. But if you're looking for peace of mind, if it's accepted, if it's signed after that date and whatever date I just provided earlier, it means they're not going to require another one again. It's the sort of thing where you could, in theory, take care of it now. But
The only downside,
yeah,
on a purely speculative basis,
I love it.
is that they may cancel the forever valid
Incoming
policy.
administration looking
Yeah,
for
purely on speculative. Not they're looking for problem. Honestly, the fact that the medical is indefinitely valid is stupid. Then they might
especially
as well cancel the medical.
when your green cards are pending for in case of
Yeah,
Wesley
where's
Harris
that
pending
coming
for
from?
4
That
years.
makes no sense.
Yeah.
So I can see that being canceled. So, but who knows?
I'm gonna, Sam. I'm gonna take a little.
Positive,
No,
positive outlook on that.
no. I'm gonna take a little chunk out of. I'm gonna counter the medicals. I mean, the medical grounds of inadmissibility. It's 2024. Should we be? What kind of disease do
Then
you have?
cancel it, remove it.
Remove it entirely. Get rid of the medical requirement.
Yeah,
I think that's fair.
but
I mean,
but
fundamentally,
yeah,
it becomes a question of. I think that's sort of the thing I'd wrap up in public charge instead. You know,
yeah.
it's yeah.
But
Anyway,
yeah, well, simplify for this
yeah,
gentleman.
yeah.
Would you wait, or would you have him send if his priority date is current the next year and you updated medical?
This is the sort of thing where if I were in his shoes, exactly what Brian Burke would do is I wouldn't bother with the medicals at this.
Because he's going to get an RFE regardless.
He's gonna. Well, I mean, you might be able to avoid that RFE. You could, but I'm just saying, whatever Brian Burke's personal mental calculus is, if I were in this scenario, I would say, I'll wait for the RFE because I don't want to be worried about, did they lose my medical exam when I sent it in to them? Did they get it to the right place?
I'm going to give you a different version.
Okay.
If he's single,
Yeah.
and it's only one medical,
Yeah.
I would send a new medical.
Sure.
If there is multiple medicals,
Yeah.
and a big expense,
Yeah.
I would wait.
That's not a crazy answer. Yeah.
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 With that, we conclude today's session.
Yeah.
5 potential upsides for immigration under the Trump administration, and answering your questions until 6 o'clock next week, Eastern time.